At first glance, you might think, oh, a rook against a pawn is an easy win for white. Not so fast. This pawn is coming toward us and is on the precipice of promotion. It is black that has the advantage in this game. Remember what I've taught you about pawns. When they're on their own side of the board, they're only worth 1 point. But as soon as they cross into enemy territory, they increase in value to a 2-point pawn, and a 4-point pawn, and a 6-point pawn, and finally a 9-point pawn called a queen. In other words, this pawn is worth more than this rook. So we're not playing for a win. We're looking for a way to hold the draw here. And I'm going to show you a tricky little technique that is pretty well known, and you've probably already solved this if you're familiar with it. We give the check here, forcing the king to c8. I say forcing because if the king comes to a8, we fork the pawn and the checkmate square. So he has to come to c8 to keep us from getting behind his passed pawn. But now we are going to fork the king and the queen from which square? That's right, we need to fork the king and the queen from the c5 square, so we place our rook on b5, because when he takes our rook, it becomes a stalemate. Bada bing, bada boom. Notice, queen takes rook, covers these squares, and the king covers that one. Oh yeah,